Welcome back to Building on a Budget Models. Today we'll be looking at the exterior of the Tamiya Skyline R34. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button to stay notified. Firstly, this is a really nicely moulded body with just a few mould lines. The front and rear bumpers are separate, presumably so that the body could also be used for race car variants. After doing a little bit of sanding, I attached all the body parts that were going to be done in the body colour. The booklet suggests 6 different body colours that the original Nissan Skyline came in, and I chose the Bayside Blue Metallic. I didn't attach the main part of the rear spoiler, as I decided to do that separately. When the superglue had dried, I went around with some 600 grit sandpaper just to smooth out some of the joins. I then used some 2000 grit to really smooth out where I'd done that. I was then happy and ready to prime. I did 2 coats of the Tamiya fine white primer. I then let it dry for a couple of hours and checked over for any more imperfections. I then used some Craig & Rose metallic blue spray paint, which I'd bought from Homebase, which is a kind of British DIY hardware shop. I initially did a very light sort of tack coat and left that for about half an hour before going on to do 2 thicker coats. This goes on really nice and smoothly. It's quite expensive, but I think the quality is similar to what you would get from a Tamiya spray paint. I'd previously used this on a couple of Subaru Impreza builds. I then decided to do some of the decals using a bit of microset and microsol. Some of the places for instance, the GTR logo and the Nissan logo are raised, so it's very important to try and get them in exactly the right place. I noticed these GT logos were on the side of the original Skyline from the 1970s. I then gave the car 3 coats of Mr. Super Clear and then left it under a box over 24 hours to cure. I then moved on to try some wet sanding. Started off with some 2000 grit sandpaper. This has been sped up to about 400% to show you everything that I did. I mainly did the flat places, but as if you do some of the edges, you're likely to burn through the paint. I then moved on to some 3000 grit sandpaper. It's important to make sure that the paper stays wet so that you don't go, dry onto the paintwork, as that can cause a bit of damage. I then used some fine Tamiya polishing compound on a microfiber cloth on those parts that I had sanded. This is the first time I've used this properly, and I don't think I got as good a results as I've seen other people get online, so I look forward to trying it again, but I still think that this is a pretty nice finish. I then used some curved masking tape to do some of the window edges. This stuff is really good and I recommend it for anyone who struggles to mask off some of these curved areas. I also masked off some places that didn't need to, and I later went back and went over them with black. Some of the parts, like the front and rear window, I found didn't need masking, and I was able to get them accurate enough with a fine brush and a careful, steady hand. Remember to quickly clear up any mistakes with your cotton bud. The lip at the bottom of the front bumper also needs to be semi-gloss black, but there's a nice ridge to show you where this needs to stop, so I found that this was easy to do without any masking tape as well. I used Tamiya acrylic semi-gloss black for these parts, and it went on really smoothly. Then used a little bit of Revell aluminium on the end of a cocktail stick to do some of the keyholes. Used a little bit of super glue on the end of a piece of sprue to attach the rear spoiler. I'd also done this in the same Mr. Super Clear to gloss it up, and then added the rear section, which was just done in semi-gloss black, afterwards. They give you templates for the mesh in the instructions. I try to be as careful as I can with this stuff, as you're normally given more than you need, so it's useful to keep it in the future for any other builds. I used a little bit of super glue dabbed onto a cocktail stick to fix it in place. Tweezers are useful here as they stop you from getting any glue on your fingers. I decided to use yellow Sharpie instead of orange, as when I built the Lancia Delta I found that the orange next to the red just looked like more red. I found this time that using the yellow in the centre gave a lot more contrast. Sharpie's really good for tail lights, as any mistakes can be simply rubbed away with sanitising alcohol. These are really nicely moulded lights. I'm really pleased with how it looks. I used a small dab of glue on the end of toothpick on the part between the two circles. The chrome patch goes on the back to give them a little bit of additional reflectivity, as you can see here. These slot into place without too much trouble, and I hope you'll agree that that looks really nice. The front lights have a little bit of semi-gloss black in them to aid the reflectivity of the silver housings. Again, a very fine brush and a cotton bud was very useful here. These are very nicely moulded, look very realistic. I used a small amount of super glue on the end of a toothpick to fit these into place, being careful not to get any on the exterior paintwork. starting to look a bit like a GTR now. One of the rear lights, I think it's the rear fog light, is done in red. For many of the lights like this, I use a little bit of black Sharpie around the edge to simulate the rubber seal that would be in place in the real car. And for these I used a little bit of white PVA to fit them into place. There we are, the reversing light and the fog light. Again, just like those rear lights, the front indicators I stuck in with PVA glue. They were orange with a little bit of black around the edge. For the headlight housing, I just put a little bit of black marker around the edge and then very carefully dabbed some white PVA glue. I then went on to doing the main windows, and here is the finished body shell. Next time I'll be working on the interior. Hope you like what you see. Thank you very much for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.